A pretty flower pot sort of just completes your spring and summer porch, right? And we've all heard of that tried and true formula. We all have it memorized. We could say it together: thriller, spiller, filler. But that trio, that little guide, isn't necessarily a hard and fast rule. Today's garden expert dares us to break the norm and play with texture to plant gorgeous pots your neighbor will notice. Jessica Berrett is a horticultural manager at Thanksgiving Point. She is here to share everything we need to know. It's great to have you back.
Thank you.
It's kind of cold. We're feeling that this morning. And I know people are always tapping their toes and wanting some gardening crystal ball, like when can I plant? What are you telling people right now?
After the next few days, coming in on this weekend, I think we'll be safe to go. But always watch the weather.
Yeah.
Because the weatherman is always going to tell you what to look for if there's a frost coming up. And the good thing about containers is that they're not too hard to cover or bring in if we do get that last minute cold snap.
So what I hear you say is you're feeling fairly confident about the Mother's Day rule of thumb, which we kind of say don't plant until Mother's Day.
Yeah.
But porch containers, they can come inside, they can be covered. We're safe. We're good. All right, well, let's start with the most important step, and that is choosing plants to plant in our pots. And I mentioned that thriller, filler, spiller method, that formula. Are you a fan of that?
I like the idea as far as how you can classify a plant and what it's going to look like in the pot.
Yeah.
If it's going to be tall and dramatic and colorful, that's important to know, and that's part of your design. But there is no rule that you need to have one thriller, one filler, one spiller. There are plenty of designs that have all of one type or a lot of one type and one of another.
So like all thrillers, one spiller.
Sure.
Is that what you're saying? I mean, you can play with that combination?
Absolutely.
Okay, I feel like we need to know more before we break the rules. I feel like there's more to know because the expert can say it so confidently. The spiky grass, let's talk about kind of that center spiky grass.
Sure, so right here's an example. This is a common grass that you see in a lot of hanging baskets, and it's fine to use.
It's a thriller.
It's a thriller, yeah. But there are a lot of other alternatives. I've got a few other options over here.
Okay.
Any of these plants could be used in a similar way to that tall spiky grass. They're all going to get bigger, so check your tags, but you're looking for something like in the 18 to 24 inch range generally. This is a type of fern.
This is fun. I just came back from a girlfriend trip in Charleston. I feel like I saw this a lot. What is this, a fern?
Yeah, it's a type of fern called asparagus fern.
Asparagus fern. All right, 18 to 24 inches. What else will get us there? Point out some plants by name.
So this is a canna.
Okay.
These have a colorful flower that will come in a little bit, but you'll want to look for a smaller variety because cannas can be absolutely gigantic in a yard.
Okay.
But there are these dwarf varieties that don't get as large.
So we check the tag as we do for like sun, shade, but we're looking for height in that case.
And the tag will tell you what height.
This looks fun and kind of has some movement to it.
This is a gara, and this is actually a perennial plant. So if you wanted to move it to your garden later, you could, and it would survive over the winter. But it just has kind of a nice, tall, airy texture that'll give you kind of this color at the top.
Well, and I love these alternatives to the spiky grass, to the traditional thriller, if you will, because they're a little softer, they're a little more romantic, and nothing against spiky grass, but sometimes I think of like Land Before Time, dinosaur spikes down the, the scales down the tail. This feels a little more lovely, right, for a garden atmosphere or for a softer treatment. What's this?
This is a butterfly weed. This is a tropical plant. You can see it kind of has spiky leaves, kind of some multicoloration on the leaves.
Pretty.
And just kind of an interesting tropical looking flower at the top.
Okay, now as we branch out, you're encouraging us to do it, and I'm feeling the momentum of these fun options. As we branch out, let's go back to that tag because it will say partial sun, it will say full sun. How Bible is that? How much do we have to adhere to that guideline?
So I do try to adhere to it for the most part. A lot of times it will say part sun, part shade. If you're trying to plant, for example, these baskets over here that are full of color, if you want a basket that is full of flowers, you're gonna need plants that are full sun, and you need to give them that full sun.
Okay.
Most annual plants that have a lot of flowers are gonna need to be in the full sun. But if you do have a shady area, that's okay. I would just focus more on the textures of your leaves, different colors of leaves.
Okay.
You can do a lot without having a lot of flowers.
So look for the texture, and that will kind of give you a bang for your buck is what I'm hearing you say.
If you're doing a shady plant.
If you're doing a
shady planter.
Let's walk over here. You're going to show us while we talk. And I was curious to know, you told my producer that the plants can get cozier in the pot than we sometimes think.
Yeah. So for example, this is a pot that we'll be working on today. And I've got these pots as tight, pretty much as tight as I can get them. Because I like the bang for my buck when I'm getting started. I want it to look pretty full from the get-go. The trade-off for that is that inevitably some of these plants are going to be a little more aggressive than others.
Okay.
And so over time, some of them honestly may kind of fade into the background or even disappear altogether.
Oh dear.
But the others are a little bigger, and so the design might shift a little bit.
So the loudmouths will take over and the quiet ones shrink back.
That's a good way to look at it.
But to your point, you want it to look full from the beginning.
Yeah, it will always be full.
Okay. And you also like the 6-pack. Speaking of bang for your buck, you like those 6-packs of plants to help stretch things out?
Yeah, I've used 6-packs in several of these containers up here.
Yeah.
So for example, this type of purchase is definitely going to be more cost effective.
Okay.
And if you spread that throughout your pot, like I've done here, you'll get a lot of filler for not a lot of money.
Okay, all right. Show us what we should do. Show us what we should know in terms of spatial assessment here.
So this is one that I laid out, and I must have been feeling kind of dark and moody with these storms because this is what I came up with.
Dark and moody.
But this doesn't have a lot of colorful flowers, as you can see. I've got some tall dramatic plants back here.
Yeah.
And then I've got some plants that are going to do a little bit more of the spilling.
Okay, that will drape and droop over time.
And you can see that I've chosen plants that have red leaves. Like this plant, the flowers don't even matter on these plants. These are all just the interesting leaves that we're using.
Well, again, you've kind of attuned us to texture, and I'm looking at the ridging on the leaves. I'm looking at, there's that fern again. What is it? Asparagus
This
fern?
is actually a different plant. This is called Artemisia.
Oh.
And it's actually a perennial that could go out in your garden as well.
I like that. I like kind of the variation of the leaves, and here we have kind of the two-tone and the ribbing that offers that texture again. Okay, let's quickly talk about caring for the container. A few quick tips to keep in mind as we kind of reorient ourselves with what's going to happen on our front porches.
Sure. So one of the things that I suggest, and I've got some over here on the table, that I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but this is a really good product to use in your water when you're watering your baskets.
Okay.
I would suggest doing it every probably 2 weeks. There's instructions on the bottle, and you can buy this locally as well as online. But what happens with some of these baskets is that the dirt kind of acts like a sponge.
Sure.
And if it gets really dry, you'll put water on top of it, and the water will kind of run around the edges and out the bottom.
Doesn't go where we want it to go.
You'll see the water coming out the bottom, and you'll think you did a great job watering it, but actually the middle is still dry.
Oh.
So this is, it's an organic compound, but what it does is it helps the dirt absorb water throughout the whole pot.
So it's going down and center.
Yes, helping to keep the water at the roots.
We're going to do that every day. We're going to fertilize, every 2 weeks. Water every day. Do this every 1 to 2 weeks. And then you want us to fertilize as well. Is this different than fertilizer?
Yes, this is not fertilizer.
This is the watering agent. Okay, and that's every 2 weeks. Fertilizer, 1 to 2 weeks.
I would say once or twice a week, and I recommend that you change up fertilizers so that you're getting kind of some different nutrients into the plants. So rotate through a few different types, but look for one that talks about blooming, especially if you've got a lot of flowers.
Okay.
Because fertilizers are composed of different ratios, and if you've got a lot of blooming plants, there are specific nutrients to a plant wanting to make flowers. So choosing one that says blooming will help you get that.
Okay, and finally, if this all feels too much for you, I'm going to call this a cheater's trick, but it's a good one. You can just buy a hanging basket and put it in a pot. That works too?
Yeah.
Anything is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, sure, grab one. We've got about 30 seconds. Can we do it quick?
Yeah, right here.
So I would just go to the nursery, I would grab one of these hanging baskets.
Yeah.
I would say, this looks good. Let's pretend I designed this girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Except we're doing it with this one.
Oh, okay, never mind. I like that one better. All right, you've got plans I don't know about. Let's go. How do we do it?
So you can see I cut the wire off so that I can pop it out of the top of the pot.
Okay.
So we just kind of loosen it a little bit.
Give it a hug.
Squeeze. Yep. You can see I've got a little bit of soil in here, but I've got enough space for the pot.
Okay.
Then I'm just going to kind of put my hand in the top.
Give it a tip.
Give it a tip.
Yeah.
And it kind of acts like one big
Do I need to
plant.
break this up?
Nah.
No. Nah. Good answer. Nope. Ooh, look at the pink and the purple. What are these? These are beautiful.
They're called osteosperma. They're one of my favorites. Aren't they so
beautiful.
pretty?
That color variation is so nice. Okay.
And then we just add a little bit of soil around the sides, and There, you're done.
No one will
You're
know.
designed.
I mean, we'll know, but we're not going to tell anyone that's what we did, because that's what I'm going to do. Thank you so much, Jessica. Where can we get more gardening advice from you?
So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is plant.geek, or I'm on LinkedIn too.
Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for reminding us. Plant.geek will link you over from our website so you can follow along and keep learning. Nice job, sister.